We have to learn to live with that. He was right. I'd been happy living at home with my family. Now, Mam and Dad were both dead, and I could never go back to that life. I just hoped that my friendship with Alice wasn't coming to an end, too. "What sort of place is Todmorden?" I asked, changing the subject. There was no point in arguing with my master about Alice. "Well, lad, my duties have never taken me to that town, but I do know a bit about it. Todmorden straddles the eastern county border, which is marked by the River Calder. So half the town is in the county, and half is beyond it. No doubt the folk across the river will have different customs and attitudes. We've travelled a bit in the past 2 years, first to Greece, next to the Isle of Mona, and finally to Ireland. Each of those lands presented us with new problems and difficulties to overcome. The fact that our destination isn't far from home doesn't change the fact that we need to be on our toes." The Spook's library had been destroyed in the fire, the legacy of generations of spooks, filled with knowledge of how to fight the dark. Now we had heard of a collection of books about the dark in Todmorden. After ringing the bell at the Withy Trees crossroads late one night a week earlier, a mysterious visitor had left a note for us. It had been short, but to the point. "Dear Mr. Gregory, I learned with deep sadness of the loss of your Chippenden library. I offer my condolences. However, I hope to be of assistance because I own a large collection of books about the dark. Perhaps some might be of use to you. I am prepared to sell at a reasonable price. If you are interested, please visit me soon at Todmorden. I live in the house at the top of Bent Lane. Mistress Fresk." Only one book from my master's original library remained, the bestiary that he had written and illustrated himself. It was more than just a book. It was a living, working document annotated by his other apprentices, including me. It was a record of his life's work and what he had discovered with the help of others. Now, he hoped to start restocking his library. However, he refused to take any books from the small collection in the watermill north of Castor that had been occupied by Bill Arkwright, one of his ex-apprentices. He had hopes that one day the mill would become a spook's house once more. If that happened, the new incumbent would need those books. John Gregory anticipated that the visit to Todmorden would be the first step to replacing his own library. My master had originally intended to set off right away, but, as interested as he was in acquiring books, the rebuilding of his house came first, and he had spent hours going over plans and schedules with the builder. He had a list of priorities, and the completion of a new library was one of them. I had encouraged him in that because I wanted to delay our departure to give Alice time to return. "What's the point of getting new books if we haven't a library ready to put them in?" I'd argued. He'd agreed, and it had bought me more time, but at last we were off to meet Mistress Fresk. In the afternoon, about an hour or so before we were to set off on our journey, I wrote a note of my own. This one was for the absent Alice. "Dear Alice, why did you go off like that without a word? I am worried about you. This morning my master and I will set off for Todmorden to look at the library we heard about. We should be back in a couple of days. Take care. I miss you. Tom." But no sooner had I pinned it to the new back door than I suddenly sensed a coldness, the warning I sometimes get that something from the dark is nearby. Then I heard someone coming up behind me. My staff was leaning against the wall, so I snatched it up and spun round to face the danger, holding it in the defensive diagonal position. To my surprise, Alice was standing before me. She was smiling, but looked tired and disheveled, as if she'd been on a long, wearisome journey. The coldness quickly faded. She wasn't an enemy, but that brief warning worried me. To what extent had she been contaminated by the dark? I wondered. "Alice, I've been really worried about you. Why did you leave like that without saying anything?" She stepped forward and, without answering, gave me a hug. After a few moments, I held her at arm's length. "You look like you've had a hard time of it, but it's really good to see you."